The afternoon sun cast dappled shadows through the trees at Riverside Park. Children's laughter created a symphony of joy that seemed to belong to everyone except Elena Vargas and her daughter Sofía. Elena sat on a bench in her crisp white blouse and beige skirt, looking perfectly put together despite the exhaustion that lived behind her eyes. She watched her 7-year-old daughter sit motionless on a swing, staring at her hands while other children played around her. At 34, Elena was the CEO of Vargas Communications, a tech startup she had built from nothing into a multi-million-dollar company in just 5 years. She was featured in business magazines, invited to speak at conferences, and held up as an example of what women could achieve in the male-dominated tech world. She had everything she had worked for: the corner office, the impressive salary, the respect of her peers. Everything except the sound of her daughter's voice. Sofía had stopped speaking 6 months ago, shortly after Elena's divorce from Sofía's father was finalized. The pediatrician had run tests. The child psychologist had conducted evaluations. The diagnosis was selective mutism brought on by trauma and stress. Sofía could speak. There was nothing physically wrong, but she chose not to. She retreated into silence as a way of coping with the upheaval in her life. Elena had tried everything: therapy, special programs, gentle encouragement, patience, even begging. Nothing worked. Sofía remained locked in silence, communicating only through nods, headshakes, and occasional written notes. The worst part was knowing it was partly Elena's fault. Her ex-husband bore responsibility too, but Elena knew her choices had contributed to Sofía's trauma. The divorce had been bitter, full of arguments about custody and money. Sofía had witnessed too much. Before that, there had been years of Elena prioritizing work over family, missing school events, hiring nannies, always promising things would slow down after the next launch. Now Elena was trying to make up for lost time. She had cut back her hours and insisted on spending quality time with Sofía. Hence this trip to the playground on a Wednesday afternoon, something CEO Elena Vargas never would have done 2 years ago. But Sofía wasn't playing. She just sat on the swing, gently rocking back and forth, isolated despite being surrounded by other children. "Elena, sweetheart," Elena called gently. "Would you like me to push you?" Sofía shook her head slightly. Not rude, just absent, somewhere else. Elena's heart broke for the 1000th time. This beautiful, intelligent child who used to chatter constantly, who used to sing made-up songs, who used to have opinions about everything. That child was gone, replaced by this silent version who seemed to be slowly disappearing. A man approached the swings with a young girl of about 8 or 9. He was probably in his early 30s with dark hair and a warm smile, wearing casual jeans and a blue button-up shirt. The girl wore a pink dress, her hair in a long braid, and she was already talking animatedly. And then, "Dad, Mrs. Peterson said my drawing was the best one in the whole class." "Can you believe it?" "The whole class? I absolutely can believe it," the man replied, his voice full of genuine pride. "You're an incredible artist, Lucia. Your mother would be so proud." They took the swings next to Sofía and Elena. The man helped his daughter onto the swing, then noticed Sofía sitting motionless. "Hi there," he said kindly to Sofía. "Would you like me to push you too? I am an excellent pusher. Just ask Lucia." Sofía didn't respond. Elena stood up quickly, preparing to explain. But before she could speak, the man held up a gentle hand and knelt down in front of Sofía's swing so he was at her eye level. He didn't touch her or invade her space. "My name is Sebastián," he said softly. "This is my daughter Lucia. We come to this park every Wednesday because it's got the best swings in the whole city." Some people might say that's a silly reason to love a park. But I think the quality of the swings is very important. Don't you? Sofía didn't respond, but Elena saw something shift, a slight tilt of her head. A flicker of attention. Sebastián continued, still kneeling. "Now, I've noticed something about you. You're sitting very still on that swing, and that's interesting to me. Most kids are pumping their legs and trying to go as high as possible. But you're sitting still. I think that takes a different kind of courage. It takes courage to be still when the world is moving all around you. I admire that." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. "Elena doesn't speak," Elena said quietly. "She hasn't spoken in 6 months. It's complicated." Sebastián looked up at Elena with no judgment. No pity, just understanding. "I imagine it's very complicated," he said. "Life usually is." He turned back to Sofía. "Would it be okay if Lucia and I swing next to you?" We don't need you to talk or do anything except sit there being still and courageous. We'll just be here swinging and being friends with the quiet. Sofía looked at him then, really looked, and gave the tiniest nod. Sebastián stood and began pushing Lucia's swing while also reaching over to give Sofía's swing a gentle push. Not too high, not too fast, just a slow, steady rhythm. Lucia, taking her cues from her father, didn't ask questions or force interaction. She just swung and occasionally commented on birds, clouds, flowers, with no expectation of response. Elena watched, mesmerized, as something impossible happened. Sofía's shoulders relaxed slightly, her grip on the swing chains loosened. She wasn't participating exactly, but she wasn't completely withdrawn either. She was present. After about 10 minutes of comfortable silence, Sebastián spoke again, his tone conversational and easy. You know, Sofía, my wife died 2 years ago, Lucia's mother. For a long time after that, Lucia didn't talk much either, not because she couldn't, but because words felt like too much. I understood that sometimes the world asks us to explain ourselves when we don't have explanations. Sometimes being quiet is the only honest response to things that don't make sense. Elena's breath caught. Lucia piped up, her voice matter of fact. I used to talk to Mommy all the time, but then she died and I didn't know how to talk without her listening. Dad says that's okay, he says we all process things differently. That's exactly right, Sebastián confirmed, and eventually Lucia found her words again. Not because anyone forced her, but because she was ready. In the meantime, I learned that silence can be its own kind of communication. Silence can mean I'm hurting or I need time or I'm here but I can't perform being okay right now. That's all valid. Sofía was looking at Sebastián now, her eyes wide and focused. The thing about words, Sebastián continued, pushing both swings in a steady rhythm, is that they'll be there when you need them. They don't go anywhere, they wait. And when you're ready, if you're ready, they'll come back, but there's no rush. The world can wait, your mom can wait, we can all wait. He glanced at Elena. Right, Mom, we can wait. Elena nodded, tears streaming down her face. We can wait as long as Sofía needs. They swung in silence for a while longer. Then Lucia said, Sofía, would you like to see the flowers over there? They're really pretty. You don't have to say anything. You could just come with me and look at them. To Elena's astonishment, Sofía climbed off the swing and walked with Lucia toward a patch of wild flowers. Not running, not skipping, but walking with a purpose, the first purposeful movement Elena had seen from her daughter in weeks. Elena and Sebastián stood side by side watching the girls examine the flowers. Thank you, Elena said, her voice breaking. I don't know what you did, but thank you. I didn't do anything, Sebastián replied. I just saw a child who was struggling and remembered what that struggle looked like. Lucia went through something similar. Losing her mother was devastating. She withdrew completely for about 4 months. What helped? Elena asked desperately. Time, Sebastián said simply, and knowing that I wasn't going to force her to be okay before she was ready. I think kids pick up on adult anxiety. They know when we're desperate for them to be better, and that pressure makes everything worse. So I had to learn to be okay with her not being okay. To trust that she'd find her way back when she could. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.